Go. Good afternoon. No, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the man in the black mask, and he's here to share a good story with y'all. And I know a lot of you enjoyed along with me too, because let me tell you something. Last month, or the month before, I went to see Wonder Woman 1984 at this movie theater in Nassau. Okay? And a lot of you are joyed by now that the theaters are going to reopen March 5th. Okay? About 1 year to the day that this vulturistic pandemic virus killed the city cinemas. And the lights went black ever since. But now the lights are going to be white. We're going to see everything, man. Remember what Al Pacino said in Scarface? Say hello to my little friend. You see this? Governor Andrew Cuomo has given the green light to reopen the city cinemas on March 5th. Okay? At 25% capacity, 50 people per auditorium on the nose. Okay? New York City cinemas will reopen on March 5th at limited capacity. Now, let me read the article to you because I'm so fucking joyed right now that we're almost back to normal thanks to the rollout of the vaccines. But given the recent challenges that we went through, let's just pray that the cancer don't return. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo gives green light to New York City cinema reopening March 5th at reduced capacity. Bingo. B-I-N-G-O, and bingo was his name. Okay? Fuck you, COVID. Update after exclusive. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo on Monday said movie theaters in New York City will be brought into line with the rest of New York State as of March 5th. Yeah. When they will be allowed to reopen at 25% capacity with no more than 50 people per screen, mask and social distancing and other protocols. And guess what? Black Widow will probably go as scheduled on May 7th. No Time to Die will be out just in time for Thanksgiving. Those will be Bond freaks out there. Good luck with No Time to Die. The guidelines include air filtration and purification standards previously specified by the Department of Health. Officials at Cuomo's press briefing today said no COVID-19 testing will be required, as is the case for large arenas like Madison Square Garden and Barclays Center that can reopen later in February. Cinemas in New York City will follow the same guidelines put in place for movie theaters in the rest of the New York State back in October, because they only reopened the ones in Nassau. Okay, that's why I've been going to, and that's why I quote Wonder Woman 1984 and Promising Young Woman, and most recently, Judas and the Black Messiah. Terrific film. I hope Kaluuya and Stanfield receive Oscar nominations for this. Because let me tell you, Judas and the Black Messiah, I think is the best film since Do the Right Thing. And Selma. And Straight Outta Compton and Get Out. Just to name a few. Thank you, America. Keeping the states and one of the nation's two biggest movie markets dark for almost a full year has crippled global theatrical release schedules. As COVID rates fall, recently hitting their lowest level since November, before the holiday surge, theater owners have been watching with dismay as other venues were allowed to reopen. AMC Entertainment, nation's biggest chain and largest movie theater exhibitor in New York City, says it will reopen all 13 of its locations promptly on March 5th. Woo! Governor Cuomo's announcement that movie theaters can reopen in New York City in the first week of March is another important step towards restoring the health of the movie theater industry and our company, said CEO Adam Aron. The company's painful journey to raise the cash needed to stay afloat during the pandemic has been highly public. Now, a lot of you New Yorkers is going to be jumping for joy after this, man. Props to us, man. We fought and we're kicking COVID-19 dead in its ass. And those vaccines are a hit, man. The only thing we need to worry about is the South African variant, among others. Let's just hope that, it don't make the screens black again. AMC reopened its first theaters in August and said it has welcomed back nearly 10 million moviegoers nationwide without a single reported case of COVID-19 transmission among moviegoers at our theaters. We look forward to welcoming back our New York City guests to the big seats, big sounds, and big screens that are only possible at a movie theater. I can't imagine a world without movie theaters. One time you didn't have them. AMC shares surged nearly 15% during Monday's session and 7% in late trading, Cinemark and IMAX followed, both closing up about 6%. Marcus gained 4%. Cuomo announced the reopening news early in the briefing without a date attached. So those on the call, including NATO New York president and CEO of family-owned Bowtie Cinemas, Joe Masher, and other industry who had waited so long already, had to wait until the end of the call when a journalist asked. Cuomo didn't have the information, but another official did. With New York City reopening, the studios will hopefully have more confidence to keep their release dates as planned. As I said, with Black Widow, which is a huge step in the process of recovery for the entire exhibition industry, Masher said. He said that 25% capacity is problematic for many chains, and NATO is asking the governor's office to increase it in the luxury liner-seated auditoriums in the city from 25% to 50%, which is moot because of this pandemic that we're still in. Those are theaters that have had their capacities drastically reduced by virtue of the larger seating. Again, 0 cases. Get ready, New York, we're coming back, Masher said. National NATO, in a separate statement, emphasized the stringent voluntary health and safety protocols that have made it possible for cinemas across the country to operate safely and responsibly at higher capacity limits for many months without a single outbreak of COVID-19 being traced to the movie theaters. Wow. Because let me stop myself for a minute. When I went back to see Wonder Woman 1984, right, at this National Movie Theater, those social distancing guidelines really worked. Because let me tell you something. I sat in the very back row, away from everybody and everything. Even though it was at a limited capacity, but I still had the row to myself. And it worked, which is why I've been going back to the theater ever since. I went back to see Promising Young Woman and Judas and the Black Messiah. And I never felt good. I'll never forget seeing my first movie alone, which was Good Night and Good Luck, I was like 2021, because up until that point, I was going with family, I'm glad that the movie theaters are coming home because let me tell you, man, it's been a very challenging time for us since this vulture of a pandemic set foot on American soil and threatened everything, including everyday life. Imagine how many people went on to develop depression and anxiety and addiction and ultimately killed themselves because they couldn't either get out of the house or couldn't get a job or what have you. New York City is a major market for moviegoing in the U.S. Reopening there gives confidence to film distributors in setting and holding their theatrical release dates, and is an important step in the recovery of the entire industry. We look forward to expanding the capacity from 25% to 50% in the very near future so that theaters can operate profitably, I said. Now, those of you that live in LA, just pray that the infection rate drops at some point because it's very high up there. LA has more infection rates than New York, and that kind of troubles me to an extent. Me being a New Yorker. Because, the film industry in Los Angeles cannot shoot films down there, because social distancing is going to be a problem down there, as will be the infection rate. Because in New York, they can shoot movies down there, but they can't shoot them in LA. Not now, not in this atmosphere. AMC reopened with what it calls safe and clean policies and protocols, developed in consultation with Clorox and with current and former faculty at Harvard University School of Public Health. It includes social distancing and automatic seat blocking in each auditorium, mandatory mask wearing, and upgraded air filtration with MERV 13 and air filters, and other important health sanitization and cleanliness efforts. Yeah, because the seat blocking, that has been very helpful. That's why I always aim for the back row. Okay, because they only allow like about 1 or 2 seats down there. 1 seat in each row. No more, no less. Which is why I did not hesitate to go back to the movie theater as soon as Wonder Woman 1984 reopened. I couldn't see that shit on HBO Max. I'd rather see it on the silver screen. Fuck that. And that's what I did. I capitalized on the opportunity and I loved it. And I will go back at some point. I will. Because a lot of good shit is going to come out this year too. And I ain't going to miss it. NATO's Cinema Safe program of safety protocols was a blueprint followed by theater owners, which is a good thing. Cuomo's New York City theater announcement comes as the state's 7-day average percentage of positive COVID-19 test results continue to fall, which is good because of the vaccinations. I just stated before. With the state registering 3.52% on Sunday, for New York City, the figure was 4.48%, with Manhattan the lowest of the five boroughs at 2.28. Behavior matters, says Cuomo, who has been a strict enforcer of masks and protocols and reopened slowly. Although, again, theaters were left until particularly late in the process. Because this was around March 12th when the theater started to shut down, because of the pandemic. And boy, I don't never want to think about that time when the fucking streets were so empty. Because let me tell you, when I set foot outside my house during the pandemic, I felt like I was in I Am Legend 2. Because the streets were so isolated and lonely. And there was not one single business open. I mean, every time I turned on, I saw a gate, I'm thinking, God damn, am I in I Am Legend 2 or what? Billiard halls can also reopen statewide on March 5th. Weddings and catered events can resume March 15th, said Cuomo. Because a friend of mine is getting married, so yeah, I've been talking to her recently, She would have got married in October, but the pandemic kind of halted that shit. Weddings and catered events can resume March 15th, said Cuomo, who is navigating the reopening embroiled in a scandal over how the state reported nursing home COVID-19 deaths. Now, he had come under fire due to his handling of the nursing home COVID-19 deaths. Some of it I believe, a lot of it I don't. But I do believe that the administration was fully responsible for the neglect of those COVID-19 cases. Because I'm sure a lot of you have got family members that's currently in nursing homes, whether they're elderly or whether they're young. Still, they don't deserve to be treated, abused, and neglected. They don't deserve to be mistreated, abused, and neglected. That's what I meant to say. Mistreated. They deserve to be treated humanely. Now, I am glad that this is almost over. Okay? I'm glad that we're going to get out of this just yet. Okay? We still got a long way to go. But we're making progress. Previous exclusive, 11:41 a.m. We're hearing from well-placed sources that New York Governor Andrew Cuomo could finally get the go-ahead today that New York City movie theaters will be allowed to reopen after being shuttered for close to a year, since mid-March 2020. Like I said, around March 12th, some shit, March 16th, I don't know. Time seems to move fast like a speeding rocket. So, but I just know it happened during that time frame. Our world will never be the same. Even if we get out of this pandemic, don't expect things to be the way they were prior to this crisis, because they won't. We don't have the details in which shape or form yet. It could be that the Bronx, Brooklyn, and Queens open first before Manhattan in the same breath. Our sources say that you will never know with Cuomo. He's full of surprises. Hence, if nothing happens today, more than that's possible, it's a continued fight between exhibition and the New York State governor. That being Cuomo. Another source tells us that it will be 3 weeks before New York City theaters reopen. Again, let's see what happens out of this press bulletin. Exhibitors have been shocked that Cuomo hasn't given the okay yet for New York City theaters after permitting sporting arenas, amusement parks, and indoor family recreation centers, etc., to reopen their capacity limits, as well as allowing New York City restaurants to increase indoor dining capacity to 35% starting this Friday, February 26th. Another sign that things are getting better. You can expect those eateries and shit to be full, come next month, because the weather's going to get a little hotter too. And daylight savings time is next week. So be prepared. But then again, mask up, whether you got vaccinated or not. Exhibition's fight with Cuomo has been epic during COVID-19. Movie theaters behind the scenes have reached the help from Tenet filmmaker Christopher Nolan and Tribeca Film Festival boss Jane Rosenthal and talking sense to Cuomo. Well, prayers are finally answered, because come March 5th, Cuomo's going to reopen the theater. When COVID-19 case numbers were improving back in October, he allowed certain counties to reopen. However, only 62 out of the state's 280 cinemas have their lights on, especially the ones in Nassau, the ones I've been going to, where I caught all those films that I mentioned. The number two exhibitor, Regal, has decided to stay closed until the major movie studios put out more product and aren't messing around with the theatrical window. Last summer, major exhibitors AMC, Regal, and Cinemark joined forces and filed a federal lawsuit against New Jersey to reopen during COVID-19, but lost that bidding. At the end of August, New Jersey finally reopened movie theaters in time for Warner Brothers' Tenet at 25% capacity. Now that one flopped at the box office. You know, Tenet failed to make 750 million to break even because it took about 350 million to make at the box office, and it was like another Blade Runner 2049. Again, fingers crossed that theaters finally open in New York City. We'll know real soon. March 5th, see you at the movie theaters. Now I can finally take the train and go to Manhattan and catch those movies and not have to stress myself going to Nassau, which is what I've been doing since day one of reopening. Well, not particularly day one, but about 2, 3 months after, you know? Because I was going to go back to the theater as soon as they reopened. As long as they have social distancing guidelines in place, I didn't mind. And I still don't to this day. I don't see nothing wrong with it. It saves our lives, social distancing and blocking certain seats. You know what I'm saying? So only certain rows allow like 1 or 2 seats. And the rest is cordoned off because of the pandemic. So it'll be a long time before these movie theaters operate at 100% capacity, which is what a lot of you are waiting for to this day. But it's getting there. It's getting there. Keep your fingers crossed, man, and pray for a miracle. So far, God has answered our prayers and gave Cuomo the green light to reopen our movie theaters and enjoy life again. And you can take your kids out and catch the movie and all that, just like y'all did with The Croods, a New Age, terrific movie. I hope y'all seen it, but I'm gonna rent it at my local library though. But I did see the first Cruise, and that was good. Now, I want to thank you all for listening to the man in the black mask because he's obviously having a good time right now. I wanted to share this story with you. I wanted to talk to you about some things related to the article, and I finally did. So, thank you for listening, and I'll see you another time. Don't forget to like and subscribe and drop the question underneath the screen and tell me what you think about this good experience that we're seeing. This miracle, this big miracle that has finally come to light. The one big miracle that God has finally shined a spotlight on. Praise the Lord and thank you, Jesus, man. Like, subscribe, question underneath the screen. Good luck, be well, and have a good evening. Thank you.